Hello, everyone. It's 9:45. I'm TK, and this is Coach on the Rocks. Lovely to see you. Sorry about my voice. I don't know how I've got it, to be honest. It's really strange. I did nothing to deserve this, but here it is. So might as well embrace a bit of a raspy voice. So today, the election day in the UK. Um, Interesting indeed. I think, can't just ignore it. So let's talk about it. I don't want to talk too much about politics. Although, if you would like me to talk about politics, give me a shout, put a comment in. I don't mind. I don't think, it's something we need not to talk about. But when it comes to the UK, I think, and in many democracies, you can see it in the US, there's obviously also a thing happening in France. What we have is a very high focus on a particular individual that might become a head of government, head of state, both. So, in the UK, it's very probable that we're going to have a new prime minister very soon. And with that, I was thinking about, the way it works and the way leadership is done with a person at the top. I hate to say a person at the top, but essentially, that's what we're associating. Who's going to be next prime minister? Or is it a safe pair of hands? What about this and that, right? But what I would like to put your attention to is maybe it doesn't have to be this way. I'm not saying let's get rid of democracy, but have you ever wondered who is the prime minister or president of Switzerland? A decent-sized European country, quite famous for many things, doing reasonably well usually. Yeah, and yet know very little about its system of governance. Some people know from anecdotes that it's a very direct democracy. They vote on a lot of stuff through referenda. But what I find interesting is their federal council. Because you see, the Swiss government is 7 people, and they rotate the head, the chair role, be it like let's call it the prime minister, but I think it's called the chancellor of the council. Doesn't really matter. As the first among equal, and there's a yearly cadence that a person has, and it moves to the next person. And obviously, well, not obviously, but the government is, a wide coalition government. And to be honest, it has been functioning like that since just after the Second World War. And it has a very high approval rating, the current one, when you look at the stats. So what I wanted to say is they practice what's called collective or collegial leadership, which is not having just one person being a top leader, but making sure there's a team that actually practices the function of leadership. And I'm a big fan. In fact, I think this is how things should work. Now, it's not only Switzerland that does that. There are many examples of paired leadership. In fact, one of the parties in the UK recently had a pair of leaders. And it can be done, definitely. And I think it's more effective. The reason for that is, as humans, we're all fallible. I think the leadership on such a level, what happens is our biases, any challenges that we might have, being just human, compound on this one single person. And anyone can have a bad day. Anyone can have their own biases. It is quite important that for such a responsibility, there's more than one person, because I think more than one person is required to be able to effectively execute leadership at that level. And I think, what I've seen, there's many organizations that I've actually been studying and asking, and I know these people that work as like a pair of CEOs, for instance, which is interesting. Yeah, I've even done my final MBA project on an organization like this. And it's always interesting to see how, with these organizations, what happens is there's two very different personalities. Or a team is full of different personalities, and they all find their place, and they can all employ their talents to the best of their abilities. I think this is quite an interesting thing, and it's very. I mean, it's not necessarily a surprise for me that, or a mystery that it's not as popular as it should be. Probably because of just human nature, ambition, and the the perceived status from being at the top. I mean, the top is like, oh, there's backstop wasn't me, right? It's I'm at the top, and because of that, these forms, unfortunately, can fail, and they often do, and it requires some additional effort to make them work. But if they do, they really work really well. And I think Switzerland is a good example. I also think that us, Humble Associates, are a good example because this is how we practice leadership. There is no one single boss in Humble Associates. And currently, we have two partners and founders amongst our team. And we are the ones exercising or discharging the leadership responsibilities. And none of us is at the top. There is a lot of decisions made by consensus. There are some areas that each of us have, which they have a final say on. But it's really clear, and the decision for that to happen, or this area to be given to someone, is made by consensus. It's been nearly 5 years. I'm not saying it's smooth sailing with the business always, but it's been okay and quite good when it comes to this kind of leadership. And again, two very different people, two very different personalities. it's actually fun to watch. We recently had a webinar with a friendly consultancy partnering with us, and they've seen like the backstage of us interacting and talking amongst our team and amongst the founders, and they're also coaches, quite observant. Had a huge laugh at the dynamics we have, which definitely, when they played it back, is comedic, and sometimes you just don't know. Having said all that, I think it's interesting what's happening. It's not the first time that elections and the, let's see, maybe transfer of power, probably transfer of power, will be happening. So that's an interesting topic too. But don't focus just on a single person. Even there's a new prime minister possibly quite soon. He will have various people working with him, his whole party. He'll need to manage his cabinet, and there's some collectivity there too. Don't just focus on a single person. Look at people they surround themselves with, and even when it comes to your local constituency. With that, hopefully you've enjoyed this small talk, and I think this is something that you can also see if you can apply in your organization. Because if you're a senior leader, if you're a member of the people team, maybe there's an opportunity to include it in your organizational design. We do, and we have helped our clients to do that quite a bit, quite successfully, I might add. So, don't be afraid to go for the road less traveled, because it actually might be better, shorter, and more effective. With that, have a great day. I will see you tomorrow. Maybe I'll do some election comments too, because, we'll have the results. Let's see. But if you're not in the UK, there's stuff happening for you too in 2024, the election year. Have a nice one, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.